welcome to this deep dive.
Mm.
Today we're exploring something I think a lot of us feel that, that urge to just move, change things up.
Mm-hmm. That restlessness.
Yeah, exactly. Shared some thoughts on this, and we found some really interesting ways to think about it. It feels like it's often more than just wanting a holiday, right?
Oh, absolutely. That feeling, it's often a signal, like something deeper is stirring. It's not always about the place itself, but maybe what the place represents or what's happening inside us in relation to it.
Right, so we're going to try and unpack that today, kind of looking at the whole picture, body, mind, feelings, all happening right now.
Using that Gestalt idea of looking at the present experience, yeah.
So that feeling, that pull towards somewhere new, maybe this conversation can help tune in to what that's really about.
Exactly. Getting curious about those feelings rather than just acting on them immediately, perhaps. Seeing what they might be telling us about our needs.
Okay, let's get into it. One thing that struck me is this idea of feeling caged. Even when things are familiar, comfortable maybe, like waking up, same view, same routine, and suddenly it feels less safe and more confining. Does that ring true?
Oh, definitely. It's fascinating how routine, which can feel so grounding, can suddenly feel like walls closing in. And often the body kind of knows first, doesn't it?
How do you?
Well, that feeling of heaviness, maybe.
Right.
Or, literally dragging your feet to start the day.
Right.
That can be your whole system, your organism basically saying, something here isn't quite working for me anymore.
That makes so much sense. I've definitely felt that physical protest against the routine. And then there's that conflict, right? The excitement of maybe going somewhere new,
The possibility.
but also that panic, that voice saying, wait, am I just running away from something?
Yes. That push and pull is so common, the allure of the fresh start versus the fear that, well, you just take your problems with you.
Right.
That question, am I just running away, is actually a really insightful one. It shows we know deep down that just changing location might not fix everything.
And all that time spent looking at travel blogs or apartment listings.
Yeah, it's like trying to touch the possibility, isn't it? Making it feel a bit more real, even if you're full of doubt.
So it's often not really about the physical place then. It's more internal.
Often, yes, or at least the external desire is pointing to something internal. That tightness in your throat or just feeling jumpy, restless. Those are messages, your body's way of saying, hey, pay attention, something needs to shift in here. The urge to move out there might really be about needing a shift in here.
Which might explain why sometimes we do those small things, like suddenly needing to rearrange all the furniture or have a massive clear out.
Exactly. It's like an attempt to create movement, to find some flow or control when we feel stuck. Little adjustments.
Trying to make the cage feel different, maybe?
Sort of, yeah. But then there are times when those small shifts just don't cut it anymore.
Right. And that's when the bigger urge, the I need to get out of here feeling, really takes over.
Precisely. When the internal pressure or need for change outweighs what those small adjustments can provide.
So here's the big question, I guess. How do we know if that urge is about growth, about making space for something better, or if it's just avoidance, running away from the hard stuff?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It requires some real honesty with ourselves. Think about it. Have there been times when just changing rooms or going for a walk genuinely gave you a new perspective?
Yeah, definitely. Fresh air, different view. It can help.
Right. So environment can influence us, but the deeper question is this urge part of a pattern of escaping discomfort whenever it arises? Or is it a genuine pull towards conditions that would actually support your flourishing?
It's tricky to untangle.
It is, and that's where slowing down comes in.
Right.
Trying to listen past the loud thoughts demanding action.
Like just book the ticket.
Exactly. And tuning into the quieter signals from the body. There was a great question in the material. What does your body know that your mind hasn't fully acknowledged yet?
Ooh, I like that.
It's inviting that deeper listening. Our bodies hold so much wisdom, registering things way before our conscious mind labels them.
So noticing what?
Yeah.
Like tension or ease?
Yeah, tension, ease, energy, fatigue. Where do you feel alive? Where do you feel trapped? What situations make you want to physically lean in versus pull back or run? That's valuable data.
But then fear jumps in. That what if voice. What if I move and it's worse? What if I regret it?
Always. Fear is part of the package when we contemplate change.
Yeah.
But what if fear isn't just an obstacle? What if it's information?
Information? How so?
Well, it points to what we care about, right? What we're afraid of losing. It shows us our edges where we feel vulnerable. Instead of fighting it, maybe we can get curious about what it's trying to protect.
Okay, so fear is a messenger, not an enemy. I can work with that.
And sometimes that urge to leave is tied into this idea of becoming, well, a new version of ourselves.
Right, like the place itself holds the promise of transformation.
Exactly. The possibility of growth, of being more authentic, maybe. But that's inherently uncertain.
Which brings both excitement and, a bit of terror.
Definitely. The unknown is a potent mix.
Now, shifting slightly, this idea that our past lives in our bodies, the example of clenching and unclenching hands, that really visualized it for me.
It's a core concept in this way of thinking. Our bodies are like living archives of our experiences.
So not just memories in the head.
No, embodied, unresolved stuff, unfelt feelings, what we sometimes call unfinished business. It can lodge itself in our posture, our breath, our habitual tensions, a clenched fist, a tight jaw.
Wow.
And sometimes that urge to move physically might be an unconscious attempt to find a context where that old tension can finally resolve or release, like trying to outrun the internal pattern by changing the external scene.
So the restlessness could be this: incomplete energy pushing for completion.
That's one way to look at it, yes. The organism naturally seeks wholeness. If something is incomplete, the energy tied up in it remains active, pushing for some kind of resolution. A new environment might unconsciously feel like a place where that resolution is possible.
But we also create distractions, don't we? Fantasies of escape.
Yeah.
As a way to not face that unfinished business.
Absolutely. Avoidance is a powerful human strategy.
What does that look like typically?
Oh, lots of ways. Maybe intellectualizing, talking about feelings instead of feeling them.
Okay.
Or minimizing, oh, it's not that bad, or projecting, blaming the current place or people for feelings that actually originate inside us.
Right. If only I lived somewhere else, then I'd be happy.
Exactly. That fantasy of the elsewhere becomes a convenient way to avoid looking at what's difficult right here, right now. It offers temporary relief, maybe, but doesn't solve the core issue.
Because we just take ourselves and our patterns with us.
We tend to, yes. Unless we consciously work with those patterns.
You mentioned breath earlier.
Yeah.
The material connects breath to what we hold back. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, it's fascinating. Breath is so fundamental, so connected to our life force and our emotional state. When we're anxious, scared, holding back tears, or even truths, notice what happens to your breath. It often becomes shallow, tight, restricted.
Yeah, I can feel that sometimes.
So paying attention to your breathing as you feel this urge to move or feel trapped, it can be incredibly revealing about what you're holding on to, what wants to be expressed or released.
And this links to boundaries too, right? How our relationship with our physical space mirrors our internal space.
Precisely. The way we inhabit our home, our town, it often reflects how we inhabit ourselves. Do we feel spacious, expansive, or cramped, confined?
So the desire to leave might actually be a signal that we need to change our internal boundaries, allow more room inside.
It certainly can be. A yearning for external space might reflect a need for internal expansion, for letting go of old restrictions or self-concepts that no longer fit.
But we have to be careful not to just project everything onto the new place, expecting it to fix us.
Yes, that's the potential trap. Idealizing a new city or country, thinking it will give us freedom or connection or peace. Those qualities need to be cultivated internally. A new place might offer different opportunities, sure, but it won't magically bestow qualities we haven't developed within ourselves. It might just highlight what's missing more clearly.
So the key seems to be awareness, just noticing these patterns.
Awareness is foundational. It doesn't necessarily fix anything instantly, but it shifts us from being driven by unconscious impulses to having a choice.
A choice in how we respond to the urge.
Exactly. When you notice, there's that feeling again, that urge to flee, or there's that feeling of being trapped, you can pause. You can get curious instead of just reacting. That pause creates space for a more conscious response.
And keep coming back to the body's signals, the pulls, the heaviness.
Yes. Treat them as invitations to listen more deeply. What is this restlessness really about? What is this heaviness telling me? The body rarely lies.
Which brings us to that paradox you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Sometimes leaving is the right thing, for perspective, for growth. But other times, the real work is staying put and facing what we want to run from.
That's the discernment piece, isn't it? And it's not always easy. Does this move serve growth, or does it serve avoidance? There's no simple formula. It requires that deep, honest listening we've been talking about.
And it sounds like real change, lasting change, often starts small, internally, not necessarily with packing boxes.
Often, yes. Subtle shifts in awareness in how we relate to our own experience. Like the example of noticing your feet on the ground, grounding yourself in the present moment, can be a powerful micro shift.
So it's less about just changing the scenery.
And more about completing cycles. If you leave without finishing the emotional business, saying the unsaid things, feeling the unfelt feelings, you likely carry it with you.
Right, so leaving something behind means processing it internally, not just driving away from it.
Precisely. That's how we gain genuine freedom from the past, allowing us to be fully present wherever we are.
Which means true freedom isn't really about escaping from things,
but more about turning towards them, towards the discomfort, towards the parts of ourselves we've maybe disowned or avoided.
That takes courage.
It does. But that willingness to face what is right here, right now, that's where the real sense of liberation comes from. Less chasing, more being.
And seeing every place, every situation as an opportunity.
Yeah, not because it's perfect, but because it shows us ourselves. It mirrors back to us where we're strong, where we're stuck, where we need to grow. Every place becomes a classroom, in a way.
Okay. And learning to just hold the complexity, the conflicting feelings.
That ability to hold paradoxes, the desire to leave and the desire to stay, the fear and the excitement without needing to immediately resolve it, that's a sign of maturity, of being able to tolerate ambiguity.
Which helps us figure out that core question. Is this urge about growth or avoidance?
Exactly. Over time, with that awareness and capacity to hold complexity, the discernment becomes clearer. You start to recognize the flavor of an urge rooted in avoidance versus one rooted in a genuine pull towards expansion.
And even that messy middle ground, the uncertainty, that has value too.
Huge value. That not knowing space, the liminal space between the old and the potential new. That's often where the most profound transformation can happen if we allow ourselves to stay present with it.
So as we wrap up, if someone's listening, feeling that urge right now, the invitation is to get curious.
Yes. Feel your body sitting there. Notice the sensations. What's wanting to move in you? Not just your physical address, but what energy, what feeling, what part of you wants expression or release, and what feels like it needs grounding, stability.
It's about using this deep dive as maybe a set of tools for listening inward.
Paying attention to those subtle cues, the conflicting emotions, the recurring patterns around change.
So the real work isn't necessarily deciding whether to pack or unpack,
but unpacking the inner landscape first. What's the unfinished business fueling the restlessness? What new parts of you are trying to emerge?
Maybe journaling could help.
Or just
fitting with the feeling.
Absolutely. Whatever helps you connect with your direct experience. Paying attention to physical sensations. Allowing the discomfort of not knowing without immediately needing an answer.
Well, thank you for exploring all this with me. Hopefully it's offered some new ways to think about that desire for change.
Thank you. It's a rich area to explore.